Hello classmates, this is Dennis. I am going to demonstrate the alarm clock assignment. In the alarm clock assignment, you're to create a class named alarm clock, and you're to create all the methods necessary for this class. You need to create another class called your test class that's going to create two alarm clock objects. You're going to attach a UML and your Java project. Let's talk about the UML. First of all, if you notice, I am in Microsoft Excel. So using Microsoft Excel, I can create a spreadsheet that looks like this. This is a UML. This is a UML. A UML is not much more than a series of rows and columns as you see it. I have the name of the class. I have all of the fields of the class. I don't need private, do I? Minus indicates private, and if there isn't if it's plus, that indicates public. So private is not needed. Not a big deal. So as you can see, I list all my fields. I put either a plus or a minus in front of the fields. The plus or the minus indicates whether the field is public or private. So in a class, all of your fields need to be private. You do not want any public fields. In addition to that, to the right, I will have a description. For example, this is the hours of the time, hours for the time of day. This is the minutes for time of day, seconds. This is my alarm hours, my alarm minutes, my alarm seconds, and this is a variable called onSwitch. And if onSwitch is true, the alarm is set to on. If not, it's set to off. This was done in a regular old Excel spreadsheet. I've seen this done using Visio, but this is a UML. Now, on the top are my fields and the bottom are my behaviors. So everything you see here would be the behaviors. So these are all the methods. And notice the methods are always public. That's why you see the plus. The two methods that start with a capital letter are my constructors. So I have a constructor with 4 parameters and a constructor with 3. Construct a new clock with values or all values, and this constructor constructs it with only 3 ints, meaning this clock will not need the on-off. I'm going to set it to off. This is how I get the hours, set the hours, get the minutes, set the minutes, and so on, all the way down to the get the value, whether it's on or off, and set it. This is UML, important document. It's like one of those design tool documents, but if I was creating a big Java project, I would have a UML in a documentation book, and this would be used for me or other people to understand what I'm thinking and doing in a class. Okay, over here we are now in Java. So in Java, the first thing I'm going to do is create a new project. So a new Java project. I'm going to call this alarm clock. I'm going to call it alarm clock. So there is my new project called alarm clock. Inside of alarm clock, I'm going to create a new class. And the class I'm going to create, I'm going to call test class. This is where I'm going to test my alarm clock and where I'm going to build a few alarm clocks. I'm going to check this box so that I get a main. And here I am inside of my test class, inside of main. I don't need these comments, but it's probably a good idea. So I know where the beginning and ending things occur. So here's my main. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create another new class, and this one's going to be called alarm clock. And this alarm clock cannot have a main, and remember, it's got to start with a capital letter. So here I am in my alarm clock class. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put my private, methods or my private fields. So I'm using my UML. I am using the UML that I created, the UML. Hold on, there it is. So I am using this UML to create my a class. So there's my hours and minutes and seconds for the time of day, and the same thing for the alarm itself. And then I have a seventh field, and that is going to be private. And that is on switch. So there are all the fields in my class. So the next thing I need to do is generate my constructor method. Well, I'm going to do the shortcut, and I'm going to say generate constructor using fields. And I wanted a constructor that just set the time and the day and the on switch. So int, and boolean. So there's my constructor. Alarm clock sets the hours, minutes, seconds, hours, minutes, and seconds. We'll talk about call to super later. But my hours are the hours here in my class. That's what this represents. This field in the class is set to the parameter here. Same thing for the minutes, seconds. So that's constructor number one. Constructor number two, as I said a second ago, would have been something like the same thing, but I would have eliminated the on and off switch. So what I would have done here was I would have just said set on off to false. And that matches the UML that we created a minute ago. So there's my constructors, and now I need my setters and getters. So I need a bunch of setters and getters. So I'm going to come up here to source, and I'm going to say generate setters and getters. So I'm going to create setters and getters for all these fields. Boom, I'm done. So there are all of my setters and getters, and it's pretty much that simple. Get hours, set hours, get minutes, set minutes. Now, when I set minutes, I need some logic in here. I'm going to say if the hours, I said minutes, if the hours is greater than 12, then I have a problem, assuming there's only 12 hours in the AM and 12 hours in the PM. And I probably need to add the field AM and PM to my clock. But that's a good catch. Or we can say this is military time, which I don't really prefer. Either way, I would add some logic to all of my setters in this class. The last main thing I need to do is have a toString, which would output everything in the class. So I'm going to let it auto-generate. Now this is rather long and lengthy, and I'm going to take a second break here and fix this. So here's an example of a toString that I wrote. I cleaned it up, I formatted it. The whole purpose of the toString is return the fields from the class in some formatted manner as a string. Then inside of my test class, I could say alarm clock, my alarm knew, and I use one of the constructors, and then I can output or print the data using the toString method. Here's the output. The time of day is 12:15:0. The alarm has not been set yet, but I did turn it on. So I need another method to set the alarm or a call. But here would be an example of building an alarm clock using a UML, and that's it. hope it works.